Hey trainers, Alakaham here with some more Pokemon video magic. We are currently in an Ultra League rotation, and I thought I would go ahead and showcase one of the new Hisuian Pokemon, Overqwil, in one of the videos for this week, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Overqwil is very similar to Drapion. The only major differences is that Drapion, because it uses XL candy, is probably going to be a little bulkier. And then, of course, you have access to Poison Jab and Shadow Ball for Overqwil. Although I don't think that's the only way you necessarily have to run it. I do think that Poison Sting is a viable fast move, and that you can use two really hard-hitting moves like, Shadow Ball and Sludge Wave or Sludge Bomb or whichever one it has, without necessarily having to use those unique aspects of the Overqwil, and especially if you are using Overqwil in place of an XL Drapion, so not everyone has access to XL Candy or enough XL Candy to create a Drapion for the Ultra League. And in the case that you want a Dark Poison type, but you don't have access to the Drapion, you can build an Overqwil relatively cheaply, and it doesn't require XL candy. So, this is like one way that folks can have access to this type of Pokemon without necessarily having to invest as much as they would for some others and still get a lot of the same benefits. So I did enjoy using Overqwil. Again, it's not quite as bulky as something like Drapion, but it is absolutely functional in the context of the Ultra League. So again, definitely usable. You can build one if you want to, and it can be an asset to your team. But if you have access to XL Drapion, of course, XL Drapion is going to probably perform just a little bit better in certain situations. And I have done my usual thing of rambling on about the background of the video and the showcased Pokemon instead of talking through the actual match, so I guess I will go ahead and jump into some commentary here. This first match was pretty cool because I did see a number of Pokemon that are a little bit more uncommon for the Ultra League. We saw a Community Day rollout Golem, and then we had the Electivire, and my opponent has a Charmer in the back, so this one's going to be a good game. My opponent was, I guess, not really all that prepared to see an Overqwil, which makes a lot of sense because not very many of them are roaming around in the Ultra League right now. So if you have an Overqwil, that does potentially provide an element of surprise. Not everyone knows what its moveset is yet, and it is kind of unexpected in the mainstream sort of meta here. Mainstream and meta is redundant. I know, I said what I said. We're going to forget about it and move on. Alright, so hopping into match number 2. We've got Overqwil into the little soldier duck there, Sirfetch'd. Y'all know that I love Sirfetch'd if you've watched many of my Ultra League videos on this channel. And this is kind of a neutral matchup. I figured I could tank one of whatever it was about to throw at me. Of course, we take neutral damage because Poison resists fighting type moves like Counter, but then Dark takes super effective, so it all comes out neutral. Somehow I outpaced them to this second move here. Looks like I had an alert coming through. I'll probably fix that for future videos. I was pretty happy just to take all the shields here. My opponent really wanted to keep that Sirfetch'd alive and win the opening there, but that works out fine for me. And then they give up Switch, so I am able to come in here and bring in the Regirock. Now there is some nice strategy here from the opponent on making that swap out, because even though they have to sacrifice their Talonflame, they do draw out whatever is going to be most weak to that Sirfetch'd. So if their Sirfetch'd was a little healthier, they probably could have chipped away a lot of health on that Regirock, and that could have gone in a very productive way for them. So I don't think that game was maybe quite yet over. I think that Sirfetch'd putting pressure on my shields could have done a lot, but oh my, okay. So this is my first time coming up against Buzzwole. That's one of the new Ultra Beasts. It's only been available at the in-person GoFest events, which I have not been able to attend, so anything that this Buzzwole throws is going to be at least neutral, and unfortunately they have access to a debuff move with Lunge. So because this person seems to be hip and rocking one of the new Ultra Beasts here, I thought that they would be aware of Hisuian Qwilfish's moveset, which is why I built up to the Shadow Ball before I threw. And yeah, so that didn't quite work out how I wanted. We're going to go ahead and go for the Shadow Ball here and see if my opponent decides to shield it, and unfortunately this time they do. So my opponent knew what they were doing. I just misjudged their willingness to let the Buzzwole go down. So now all the shields are out of the way, but I have lost the Qwilfish. I'm going to come in here with the Regirock, because Regirock, even though it can take a lot of damage from this Trevenant, it's not going to get one shot. And if I had brought in my own Trevenant, my opponent could have just thrown the Shadow Ball, and with some Shadow Claws, that's going to be enough to more or less take me down here. So what I'm doing is basically sacking the Regirock here. I'm just going to let the Regirock go down, and I am trusting in my own Trevenant to be able to pull out a win in this game, hoping they don't have a Dark type in the back. They end up having a Gyarados, so there is maybe some hope here, except for Gyarados has access to Crunch, and I did not do as much damage as I hoped I would with that Shadow Ball. So maybe I should have just gone for 2 Seed Bombs. That probably would have been the better play, and then they wouldn't have got to the Crunch. But you live and you learn. I had never been in that exact circumstance before, so now I know how to play it a bit better. And good game to my opponent, and that was very cool to see the Buzzwole. Hopping into this new game, there's another kind of uncommon Pokemon here in Beware, and I actually think Beware is really, really good for the Ultra League, even though you don't see it, at least I don't see it show up all that often, but I've played with it a fair amount in the Ultra League, and it is pretty strong. I think that Beware is maybe an undervalued Ultra Leaguer right now. So I'm shielding these because I really don't want to get hit with superpowers, at least until after they have debuffed themselves with an initial superpower. And we're just going to go with these Aqua Tails because, honestly, even tiny moves like Aqua Tail really add up in combination with Poison Jabs. Okay, so after they debuffed themselves, I knew that we could tank a move there, and they counter with the Swampert, so I'm going to come in with the old Spooky Tree and see what we can do with some Seed Bombs here. They throw very early, so I knew that wasn't an Earthquake, even though, you know, Trev can survive an Earthquake if it comes in pretty healthy anyway. And my opponent decides to let the Swampert go. Makes sense, because they have a much better matchup here with the Beware. And now we've got a spooky-looking Pokemon versus a Pokemon with a spooky name, so that's kind of fun. But neither here nor there. Trev is able to reach a Shadow Ball, which is really nice. So we've got Dark Power coming from the Spooky Tree. And I guess their win con there was to call it that it was a Seed Bomb. So the opponent played it well. They just got stuck in a bad situation there at the end. And I was able to come in with the Qwilfish to go ahead and farm down the Togekiss. So that cute Toga face was not going to be enough to save the opponent from my spooky Pokemon here. Okay, this time we hit a very bad lead, Qwilfish into Cresselia. It's not as bad if you can come into it with energy. That's why I switched out, because if I can get a head start where I can maybe get the Shadow Ball through, that's going to be a lot better. But my opponent comes in with the sleek metal mantis thing there, and I should not have blocked that move because the second Night Slash is going to be much worse than the first Night Slash, potentially. So being that I got myself into this jam, I guess I'm going to go ahead and shield, and then I'm going to bait with a Seed Bomb, hoping that they want to match the fact that I shielded. And they do, so that's good, and I'm just praying that I can outpace them to the Shadow Ball, and unfortunately we CMP tie, and they win the tie. So that Night Slash is going to be taking me out, and I do not have any other good response to Scissor. I do know that Night Slashes aren't going to be any big deal to the Overquil, so I guess I'm just going to overfarm a bunch and try to come out of this with energy. That's the only thing I really know to do here. I didn't want to get low enough to tank another Night Slash there, so, and building up the extra energy, I guess, didn't matter all that much because they were already at a move. Oh, okay, but they just went for Grass Knot, which is not quite going to be enough to take us out. Actually, I shouldn't have been all that worried there because Moonblast would have also been resisted. I did not think I was going to make it to another Shadow Ball there, so all damage is good damage, right? We're just throwing the Aqua Tail, doing as much as we can, and it's a CMP tie, which is great, so they're going to throw their energy to take us out, and then it is all going to be up to Regirock. And they have a Giratina in the back, and that works out fine, especially because they are a Dragon Breath Giratina, so that's not going to be as problematic for the Regirock as if they were building up, neutral damage with potential Shadow Claw fast moves. Those charge moves are going to be resisted there too. So Giratina is a little bit bulkier than Regirock, I think, but I should be able to survive at least one more charge move here, and we do get to the stone edges pretty fast, so fingers crossed we get to the stone edge. And for some reason I was over farming there, really rolling the dice on that one, and my opponent comes back in with the Cresselia, and we just barely, I guess it's a good thing that I over farmed, we just barely reach the last second stone edge there before they get to the Grass Knot. Grass Knot would have definitely taken out the Regirock from that range, so that worked out very nicely for me. Okay, these were some fun sets. I enjoyed testing out the new Hisuian evolution for Qwilfish, Overqwil, in the Ultra League. I do think it is a viable Pokemon to use in the Ultra League. It's off meta, but you can use it and it can be useful, and especially if you don't want to take the time or energy or resources to build an XL Drapion. So thanks for hanging out with me in this video. If you enjoyed the content, it would be great if you could leave a like, and if you're not a part of the community yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button so that you can be here for other videos in the future, and feel free to let me know what you think of the team or make suggestions or other comments in the discussion section below. I hope you enjoyed the content, and I'll have more videos for you soon. Until next time, trainers.